From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On the News Hour tonight, Niger Republic severs ties with Nigeria as President Tinubu writes the Senate on troops deployment. Mariam Shetty replaced in last-minute changes as Festus Keyamo makes ministerial nominee list. Doctor strike in Borno enters second week as residents bemoan lack of services. And on the foreign scene, Ethiopia declares state of emergency amidst clashes in the Amhara region. Thank you very much for joining us on the News Hour tonight. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. We start with the latest from Niger Republic as the military junta in Niger Republic says it is cutting ties with Nigeria after the failure of efforts by the Economic Community of West African States to resolve the ongoing impasse. ECOWAS had issued a 7-day ultimatum for the reinstatement of ousted President Mohamed Bazoum to avoid possible clash with the military junta. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has sent a high-powered delegation led by former head of state General Abdulsalami Abubakar to meet with the coup leaders on Thursday. The delegation only met with representatives of the military leadership. Subsequently, the Niger military leadership announces severing ties with Nigeria, Togo, France, and the United States. Media reports quote one of the coup leaders as saying the functions of the extraordinary and plenipotentiary ambassadors of the Republic to France, Nigeria, Togo, and the United States have been terminated. Still staying with our story, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has sent a letter to the Nigerian Senate notifying them of the coup in Niger Republic and the resolutions of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to return the democratically elected government back to power. Senate President Godswill Akpabio read the president's letter during plenary on Friday. In the letter, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also sought the backing of the Legislative House on the cutting off of electricity to the Republic of Niger and the closure as well as monitoring of all land borders with Niger Republic and reactivating the border drilling. Now, the president noted that following the unfortunate political situation in Niger Republic, culminating in the overthrow of his president, the ECOWAS under his leadership have condemned the military coup in its entirety and resolved to seek the return of the democratically elected government. ECOWAS has also called for the prevention of operations of commercial and special flights into and from Niger Republic.
As chair of ECOWAS, Nigeria has the obligation to lead in the implementation of the directives outlined in the communique, and as such, steps have been taken to give effect to the resolutions therein. Accordingly, the distinguished Senate is invited to note the following and the following actions expected of ministries, extra-ministerial departments and agencies, including military and paramilitary agencies. These actions include 1. Closure and monitoring of all land borders with Niger Republic and reactivation of the border drill exercise.
Well, staying with that development, the Arewa Consultative Forum, a pan-northern socio-political group, has advised the ECOWAS community against use of force to oust the current military junta in Niger Republic. This is contained in a statement by the ACF Secretary General Murtala Aliyu, released in a statement in Kaduna. While condemning the coup and calling for the restoration of democratic governance in Niger, the forum says it supports the position of restoring democratic rule in Niger Republic. The statement, however, says the ECOWAS should tour the path of dialogue and diplomacy and not use military force in resolving the current impasse in Niger Republic in the interest of peaceful coexistence with a brotherly neighbor and stability of the ECOWAS region. ACF says Nigeria and Niger share a long historical border of more than 1,500 kilometers with families, communities sharing common facilities, including farmlands, markets, cultural bonds, and languages for many centuries, predating the trans-Saharan trade and colonial times. The forum noted that the measures being taken or contemplated by the ECOWAS community should take into consideration the historical antecedents and mutual interests of the two countries and weigh the consequences of the use of force. Now let's get some more insight on recent developments in Niger Republic. Joining us on the News Hour via Zoom live is the country director of CARE International in Nigeria, Dr. Hussaini Abdu. Doctor, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us on the News Hour. First of all, your thoughts on how the recent developments over the past 48 hours or so is shaping the conversation about the future of Niger Republic, but the larger picture is the region itself is going through a lot at this moment. What are your thoughts? I'm not sure we have the audio from the connection with Dr. Hussaini Abdu, but we'll try and work on that to see if we could get back to the conversation about some of these developments in Niger Republic, the impending military action, the threats and counter-threats from the military junta in Niger, as well as the worldview on the future of Niger Republic, as well as the positions of some of these countries within the ECOWAS community vis-a-vis what is currently ongoing with regards to developments in Niger Republic. We'll try and re-establish our connection to Dr. Abdu. If not, we continue with some of these developments as ousted. A Nigerian leader, Mohamed Bazoum, is calling for U.S. support to return him to power. And the military junta is said to be courting support of President Vladimir Putin of Russia. And the coup in that regard is what many are saying that is currently shaping the conversation going into the next few hours, which could be very crucial to developments in Niger Republic. But in other news, a cross-section of residents in Argungu local government area in Kebbi State are calling on the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to rethink its decision to deploy the use of military force in restoring democratic governance in Niger Republic. Argungu, which is about 50 kilometers to the Nigerian border with Nigeria, houses thousands of Nigerian citizens. The residents say ECOWAS military intervention could result in tension between Nigeria and Niger Republic. They call on President Tinubu, who is also the chairman of ECOWAS, to focus on diplomatic approach and domestic challenges bothering Nigerians. The report. All right, that report is currently unavailable. We'll circle back to it during the course of the bulletin. However, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has withdrawn the nomination of Dr. Mariam Shetty as ministerial nominee from Kano State. The decision was contained in a letter read by Senate President Godswill Akpabio during Friday's plenary.
According to the letter, Dr. Maria Mahmoud is to replace Dr. Mariam Shetty as a ministerial nominee. The president also announced Festus Keyamo, senior advocate of Nigeria, as a ministerial nominee from Delta State. This addition now takes the total number of ministerial nominees to 48.
In compliance with the provisions of Section 147, Subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, as amended, and sequel to my area correspondence dated the 2nd day of August 2023, I resolved to withdraw the nomination of Dr. Mariam Shetty. Furthermore, I am pleased to nominate Dr. Mariga Mahmoud Bongura.
Former governors of Osun, Yobe, Kebbi, Plateau, and Zamfara states were screened. They were, however, not subjected to probing questions. Others who were screened by the lawmakers on Friday include Alkali Saidu from Gombe, Sefania Gizalu from Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and a host of others. Rashidat Yusuf for Trust TV News.
Now, the nomination of Yusuf Maitama Tugga for ministerial appointment is continuing to generate public discourse in Bauchi, the home state of the nominee. Politicians from the opposition All Progressives Congress in the state are commending President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the choice. And this report, Adamu Imam, chronicles the political journey of the ministerial nominee.
Yusuf Maitama Tugga hails from Gamawa local government area of Bauchi State in the Northern Senatorial District. He won election to the House of Representatives in 2007 on the platform of NNPP. In 2011, Tugga contested governorship election of Bauchi State on the platform of the defunct Congress for Progressive Change, CPC.
So that now they have somebody as a minister, not Bauchi State, Nigeria at all, because we see the way performance he did in ambassador in Germany. They bring many things, transform Nigeria. Look at this electrification NEPA program, this Siemens. Ambassador Maitama Tugga brings Siemens to Nigeria so that this program of this light go in Nigeria.
He was appointed Nigerian ambassador to Germany after Muhammadu Buhari won presidential election in 2015, a position he currently holds. Some of his political allies speak on his nomination as minister.
Ambassador in Germany, he has brought a lot of infrastructural development to the nation and also in Bauchi State. So he is an innovative person. He is a person that he has a lot of plans now on ground to see that he will make Nigeria move in their own country.
Other members of the party in the state expressed hope the cabinet, when formed, will hit the ground running. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
Right, let's circle back to the conversation about developments in Niger Republic as the country cuts ties with Nigeria, Togo, France, its colonizer, the United States. Vis-a-vis the developments here in Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has sent a letter notifying the Nigerian Senate of the positions of ECOWAS to take military action against the military junta in Niger Republic. We have once again on the line Country Director of CARE International Nigeria, Dr. Hussein Abdu. Doctor, thank you very much for staying with us. We appreciate your commitment to the conversation. First of all, your thoughts on what looks like Sophie's choice, very undesirable outcomes, especially if you consider the military talk, the threats and the counter threats from ECOWAS as well as the military junta in Niger Republic. What are your thoughts about how things are shaping up?
Yeah, I think it's an unnecessary escalation that we were experiencing the last few days. Yes, the coup in Niger is condemnable and should not be accepted in any way. But I don't actually think that you can restore democracy through a violent and non-democratic way. Of course, Niger is a very close neighbor of Nigeria. And I think the relationship between Nigeria and Niger is not a relationship of two countries. I think it's more a relationship of brothers and sisters. A war against Niger is like a war against Nigeria itself. So for me, I think we have to tread this with caution. Niger is going through a very difficult period. Ordinarily, one of the poorest countries in the world, going through major crises as it relates to the Central Sahel, and now compounding that with a coup, but threatening to use military force to dislodge the coupists in the moment, for me, is an escalation and should not be encouraged. Nigerians are already expressing opinions of different shades. We have heard two strong statements from the Council of Ulama, from the Arewa Consultative Forum, and I think those are strong statements because the relationship that we have between the northern part of the country and the rest of Niger is a very historical one, and using force, for me at this moment, shouldn't be encouraged. There are other ways. I can recognize that, look, we are putting pressure, government want to put pressure on them, and that Nigeria is currently chairing the ECOWAS, and the president of Nigeria is the president or is the chair of ECOWAS. Yes, there is a lot of expectation from the Nigerian side, but we need to tread this with caution. Historically, Nigerian foreign policy is driven largely by friendly relationship with its neighbors. Nigeria has never carried arms historically against any of its neighboring countries, despite all provocations. Nigeria have always learned to let go when there is any contention with its neighbors, because it believes very strongly that its influence, its power depends largely on the relationship it has with its neighbors. So getting out to Niger and using force will undermine that historical relationship that Nigeria has had with its neighbors. And once you destroy the relationship with Niger, it's bound to affect the relationship with other neighbors, because they'll begin to look at Nigeria with some level of suspicion. So we need to be careful on how we march around this. It's a tricky issue. It's a delicate one. This region is already in a huge security crisis, and it should not be compounded by this particular situation.
Yeah, if I can chime in here, Doctor, what is your reading of the situation, especially how things are shaping up, looking like a proxy war where Niger is trying to side with Russia, and the ECOWAS, as you can tell, is leaning towards the body language of France, the United States, who are doubling down on their commitment to not just condemn, but to push ECOWAS into this military action. How real are those threats, and what are the chances that things could escalate to a worst-case scenario where we could see a possible military action?
No, I don't really think there is a proxy war. I think sometimes we drop some of those things for strategic purposes. Yes, in Niger, as in many Francophone countries in West Africa, there is a strong discontent in their relationship with France. And part of the coup, whether in Mali or the one in Burkina Faso or in Guinea, and now in Niger, has to do with some of the soaring relationship between this country and their former colonial overlord, France. And so you cannot talk about the politics of this region and the recent military activities around those areas without pointing at its relationship with France. But as it's going now, once you touch France, America has a very strong base in Niger. France has a very strong base in Niger and has a strong colonial control or neo-colonial control of the country. So as relationships are getting worse between the Western world, it is almost natural, considering what is happening now between Russia and Ukraine. It is natural that the other side would like to drop Russia or begin to demand for mercenaries, particularly that there are mercenary activities in Russia, mercenary activities in Mali and in Burkina, and therefore, since they are all in the same plate, then they would like to explore other means of strengthening themselves strategically. But I don't see it as a proxy war. Yes, the ECOWAS position may coincide with what France wanted, but that is why ECOWAS need to tread this softly so that it does not present itself as playing the neo-colonial game in this matter. And so to be strategic in this issue and let ECOWAS be clear about its interest and not bother about the interests of the other parts of the world. Democracy is about people, and it's important to recognize that.
I did ask earlier what you make of the threats and whether or not these threats of military action is real or is just a bluff to see who blinks first, especially on both sides, because the Nigerian coup plotters or current military junta is also threatening military action, because it is also enjoying not just the support of Russia or the Wagner Group or other military juntas in Guinea-Bissau, Mali. It is also threatening to take action against ECOWAS. But what about cutting ties? For instance, we have had the ECOWAS delegation visit Niger Republic. They didn't spend the night, so clearly things didn't go according to plan. Nigeria sent its own delegation led by the former military head of state, Abdulsalami Abubakar. That didn't pan out. Nothing much came out of it. And just this morning, the military leadership in Niger announced cutting ties with virtually everybody that matters in this conversation. Where do we go from here? if we're not supposed to take the nuclear action, which is the military action? How do you diplomatically address this situation when Niger is cutting ties with all the players involved?
Diplomacy requires patience. Diplomacy does not mean that you go for one meeting and expect to make gains. You go and you prepare ground for subsequent engagement. Yes, we had the ECOWAS delegation, and we had a delegation from Nigeria, like you mentioned. But I think it will be foolhardy to expect that one meeting will give them all the result. I think it's around understanding the terrain, begin to create mutual trust. It will take a lot of troubleshooting to arrive at what we expect. And there are several examples of that. Look, we saw a similar situation at the point in Gambia. Of course, it wasn't a military coup, but we had a president who didn't want to leave. So there was a maximum pressure, but there were also this pressure was going alongside with diplomatic engagement, and that was used, and we're able to address that. The situation with Mali. In Mali, there have been a lot of troubleshooting when the President Buhari actually made President Goodluck Jonathan as his emissary in that engagement. It's been a series of back and forth with Mali. And up to now, we still have that government, the military government there in Mali. So I think diplomacy requires a certain level of patience. It requires a certain level of doggedness and order to get it through. Right. In terms of the threat, yes, I think the threat is real, because when you make some of those strategic threats, sometimes you don't also want to back up. But for me, my understanding of it is that governments of ECOWAS or the other ECOWAS countries want to put certain level of maximum pressure to create a scene that will force the military purchase to actually withdraw. And I don't see that happening very quickly. At the end of the day, it is the poor, vulnerable citizens of Niger that will suffer, and the impact of their suffering will also affect most parts of northern Nigeria, particularly those areas that are bordering with Niger Republic. So I think we need to be careful. And some of the sanctions, like the electricity, for instance.
We understand that this is a conversation. This is a conversation that is ongoing. It's a work in progress, as you've pointed out, and we do appreciate your insight on this one, and we hope to circle back to it as soon as we learn more, and there's a lot more to unpack. Thank you most kindly for your time and your insight on this conversation. He's country director of CARE International in Nigeria. Well, doubling down and going back to that story earlier, from Kebbi, where a cross-section of residents in Anugugu local government area of Kebbi State are calling on the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to rethink its decision to deploy the use of force in restoring democratic governance in Niger Republic. Anugugu is just about 50 kilometers to the Nigerian border, with Nigerian housing thousands of Nigerian residents in that area. Now, the residents say ECOWAS military intervention could result in further tension between Nigeria and Niger Republic. They call on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who also is the chairman of ECOWAS, to focus on diplomatic approach and domestic challenges bothering Nigerians.
We Nigerians is like we are in temperamental condition. So I don't blame what the ECOWAS had made decision concerning this issue of Niger. Niger is a republic. And if we now look at both of us, Nigerian and our neighbors, all of us have a right to do what they want. But due to the condition of democracy, soldier people are not be able, so that they will coup the president of Nigeria and still they will detain him.
This decision they want to take, honestly, there will be serious war, because those other people that collected the other governments from, what is it called? What is his name, safe? Is it Bazoum? So if ECOWAS should come and rescue.
Now, in other news, the resident doctor strike action in Nigeria is creating dissatisfaction among Nigerians who say public health services have been negatively impacted Residents in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, say the ongoing strike action is making life difficult as most cannot afford private hospital services in the current economic climate in the country. Bitrus Kurusi has more.
It's more than a week since the resident doctors went on strike over the demand for pay rise following the withdrawal of fuel subsidy. The strike action is affecting healthcare delivery services in some hospitals in Maiduguri as residents are having difficulty to access to a medical services in most public hospitals. Some patients complained that they have waited for hours and there were no doctors available to attend to them.
We came here since 10 minutes before 6 o'clock, but we didn't see a doctor up to now. I go and complain to them. They said they should contact the consultant, but up to now, maybe they have contacted them, but they didn't arrive up to now. Private hospital is expensive now. Since now we are in subsidy regime now, even the transport is something else.
Yau na kai sati ɗaya ba ni da lafiya. Kuɗin da zan zo asibiti ma ba ni da shi. A yanzu ma wallahi wani ne ya taimake ni ya kama ya mun hanya na zo.
It's been 1 week I've been sick because I don't have money to come to the hospital. It was someone that gave me the money to come to the hospital. Honestly, things are very hard for me.
The consultants are trying their best, honestly, because the number of files that have been given to a consultant, it's too hectic, but
they called on the government to resolve its disputes with the striking doctors. We are calling on the government to quickly settle the resident doctors so that they can come and attend to us, please.
I need government to intervene about this matter, especially for doctors. You know, this if other association are doing strike, doctors they did not supposed to do strike because without health one cannot be this thing.
The federal government had severally argued that with money saved from fuel subsidy payment, healthcare, infrastructure, education and agriculture, among others, will get better funding. Bitrus Kurusi, Trust TV News, Maiduguri.
To Adama State now, where breastfeeding as a practice has tremendous benefits for both nursing mothers and children. As medical experts say, breastfeeding provides babies with ideal nutrition and supports their children's growth and development, as well as guarding them against certain illnesses as well as diseases. Salis Lawan has more on this report.
Having thought some of the numerous health benefits of breastfeeding, some mothers, especially working class, solicited for a support system that will ensure that work or any form of employment does not separate them from their babies.
Seriously, it helps me because it creates this bond between me and my baby, and there is this love that increases between a mother and a child while breastfeeding. It helps me that I will be able to educate other women that do not know about exclusive breastfeeding.
And we hope that the government will implement that because it will actually support the mothers, especially the working class mothers, to be able to breastfeed 2 years and beyond, because that is the standard, or rather the recommended optimum IYCF practices. So with that, it will actually support them, because without some of this support, it will actually hamper the recommended optimum IYCF practices, which is the early initiation, the exclusive breastfeeding, and the continuous breastfeeding with complementary feeding.
To help protect babies against some short and long-term illnesses and diseases, stakeholders say they are committed toward providing the necessary support as well as promoting actions that can be taken to help ensure breastfeeding works for all women who work wherever they work.
This has gone a long way in saying that this particular administration has a policy that is directed towards enhancing and improving the lives of women and children.
Aligned with the theme of enabling breastfeeding, making a difference for working parents, we're able to use the event to draw attention of the appropriate authorities, both in the public and the private sector, on the need to create an enabling environment. And we saw the promises and the commitment on the part of the Adamawa State government by immediately directing the establishment of 3 creches within the State Secretariat complex, and all ministries, department, agencies to follow same and establish, to encourage our mothers who are working to continue to achieve the privacy and the safety and the convenience of a crèche in their workplace.
Expert says breastfeed babies have a lower risk of asthma, obesity, type 1 diabetes, and sudden infant death syndrome, and they are also less likely to have ear infections and stomach bugs. Salis Lawan, Trust TV News, Yola.
And in Katsina State, Governor Dick Korada has banned illegal mining activities across the state. Activities of illegal miners in Nigeria is seen as one of the leading factors responsible for the devastating insecurity ravaging some northern states. Abdullahi Amadi has more.
It is in line with this, Governor Diko Umar visited Sabaru mining site in Chiranchi local government area, where he directed a stop on all mining activities everywhere in Katsina State henceforth. Illegal mining portends danger to the lives and property of people, especially in Katsina State, which has been battling with the monster for almost a decade. The state has constituted a committee to be headed by the deputy governor with a view to identifying all mining sites.
We wouldn't just allow people to come explore the state and leave, but we have to do a kind of thorough investigation and make sure that state gets revenue out of it, because these are the state resources. Even if the federal government has given a mining license to a company, but the state also has to give them authorization to use their lands.
The committee is also expected to compile the list of solid minerals deposits and their locations in the state and recommend the best ways of exploration, as well as how it could be beneficial to the residents. This action is seen by many residents as a bold step towards checking the ravaging insecurity that is gradually swallowing the state. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
You're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. Still to come, we take a look at recycling and how it is becoming a money spinner for youths in Adamawa State. Details of this and many more stories coming up ahead after the break. Welcome back to the News Hour on Trust TV. Thank you very much for staying with us. Here's a quick recap of our top stories at this hour. Niger military leader severs ties with Nigeria as President Tinubu seeks Senate support for troop deployment. Ministerial nominee from Kano replaced as Festus Keyamo and Mairiga Mahmood are nominated for ministership position. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has promised to remove all the obstacles militating against a stable electricity power supply in Nigeria. The president spoke on Friday at the groundbreaking ceremony of the new 350 megawatts Gwagwalada Independent Thermal Power Plant Phase 1. He said this, saying his administration would bring solutions to the multifarious challenges across the electric power sector and the value chain, which will significantly relieve long-standing problems of suppressed demand and improve the steadiness of peak supply for Nigerians. Kendi Amodu reports.
The Gwagwalada 350 megawatt phase 1 project is part of an incremental 3,600 megawatt cumulative power project that is based on market-driven designs along the Abuja, Kaduna and Kano gas pipeline corridors. It is one of the arrowheads for the President's plan to address power challenges and improve gas utilization to shore up national energy supply to meet growing domestic demands. In that vision is the use of other low-carbon energy options like solar, hydro, wind, thermal and biofuels as part of a larger mix for both on-grid and off-grid power systems.
As it has come to be known, it's a joint venture project between General Electric, GE, China Machinery and Engineering Corporation, CMEC, and Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, to construct a 350 megawatts gas-fired power plant right here in Abuja.
The President also intends to diversify fuel options through the expansion of Nigeria's CNG infrastructure, which will accelerate the adoption of a cheaper and cleaner alternative fuel for buses, cars, and keke napep nationwide.
The groundbreaking is highly significant to the nation, and it marks the first bold step in this administration's concerted effort to establish a strong and varied energy sector that will drive the economy. Energy, I always say, is the most important discovery for humanity in the last 1,000 years.
Group Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, shares the President's vision, which he says will also entail leveraging on the nation's endowment of gas resources to power the nation's industrial growth and stimulate job creation.
As a commercial enterprise, Your Excellency, NNPC sees these projects as an opportunity to monetize our abundant natural gas resources by expanding access to energy to support economic growth, industrialization and job creation across the country.
The NNPC Limited has already completed other power projects to enhance energy security, including the 50 megawatt Maiduguri power plant, the 900 megawatt power plant in Kaduna, and a 1,300 megawatt power plant in Kano. From the Federal Capital, Kendi Amodu, Trust TV News.
Now, it's been exactly 10 days after torrential rains washed away the popular Olodo Link Bridge. The state government has opened the 2.5 kilometers Oki Road, which is expected to serve as an alternative route to residents and help ease the transportation of goods and services from Olodo community to other parts of the state. The Commissioner for Works and Public Transport, Professor Daoud Sangodoni, explained that the new road is expected to ameliorate the sufferings experienced by communities and commuters, while also assuring government's commitment to providing quality infrastructure across the state. Our correspondent, who was on the inspection team, has this report.
The events of the last 10 days has left a bitter experience for residents of Olodo, who are yet to come to terms with the harsh reality of being cut off from other communities after their only link bridge was destroyed by heavy floods. A glimmer of hope seems to be in the horizon as the state government is set to open the 2.5 Oki Link Road, expected to convey commuters through Alaka all the way down to Olodo Bank.
What we have done on this road is to do some repairs. It's an old road, and then we have on the road a 4 meter width of a bridge, which was constructed during the Western region. And also we have 2 streams, which we have put steel pipe of 6 meter long and 1.2 meter diameter on this route. We do some clarification and of course, we also put some stone base so that it will be passable for our people.
The opening of the alternative route is not cherry news to some residents who believe the road was not properly constructed and might not stand the test of time.
They have already abandoned this road before, but this road is the general road that we are using before since 1980. 1980. The bailout road, I think, is good, but it's not all that good enough. Because if you see the place very near the bridge, there are some places where they have to cover. Because if the rain falls now, it will just wash all this thing away.
Others are of the opinion that the Oki Link Road would for sure wipe away the unpleasant memories of the past few days.
Alternative road they make for us because it's very tough, right? For the past a week now, I've been dropping my cars the other side of the road there. So when they make this alternative road, I see this as an opportunity for us to be able to move the way we are moving before.
The construction is ongoing, and the people in the neighborhood, they are happy for the new development, and they hope soon or sooner enough they will get it complete.
Authorities here have assured that they would continue to monitor events as they unfold in the Olodo community, even as they strive to provide quality infrastructure to all residents of Oyo State.
To Adamawa State now, where a group of young people collecting plastic materials for recycling to clean up the environment while making profit from the business are exploring more opportunities. The recycled materials include plastic bottles, jerry cans, chairs and other materials. Trust TV's Ibrahim Ismail met with a group of scavengers in Yola, the Adamawa State capital, and now reports.
This is one of the largest rubber collation centers in the Northeast. Hundreds of thousands of rubber items are being gathered and processed for recycling on a daily basis. These workers say the job is beyond making profit, describing it as a venture that gives back to the society. This is community service. This waste could have blocked waterways. We are glad that we are helping the society and the government to sanitize the environment. A lot of these waste materials have been transported. Despite discrimination from some members of the public, the scavengers remain determined in their job to put food on the table. I can't quantify the blessings of the work. I got married, bought a ride, and built a house with the proceeds. But outsiders take us like thieves or dirty people. These rubber materials are being transported to different Nigerian cities where companies recycle the materials for different purposes. Textile materials and house interlock are created from the recycled rubber bottles. And a lot of things are created from the waste. The scavengers who depend on this endeavor to survive believe that there is dignity in labor and urge Nigerian youth to be self-reliant. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News.
And in Zamfara State, the state government has approved the immediate distribution of food materials across the 14 local government areas of the state as palliatives due to the removal of fuel subsidy by the federal government. A statement by the spokesperson to the governor, Suleiman Idris, says the decision to distribute food items is in line with the current economic realities in the country and the commitment of the Zamfara State government to mitigate the effects of price hike in petrol on the lives of citizens. It says that the state government is rolling out plans to make sure that palliative reaches the masses without hitches. The statement also disclosed that phase 1 of the food distribution will commence with rice, maize, among many other commodities. Modalities and a high-powered committee has been set up for the purpose of distributing the materials as approved by the state governor. And the Nasarawa State House of Assembly has screened and confirmed 16 out of 17 commissioner nominees sent to the House by Governor Abdullahi Sule. The Speaker of the House, Right Honorable Ibrahim Balarabe Abdullahi, announced this after their screening during the House proceedings in Lafia, the state capital. Correspondent Abubakar Abdullahi sent in this report as presented from our studio.
17 commissioner nominees, including 3 females, were last week sent to the Nasarawa State House of Assembly by the state governor, Abdullahi Sule. 16 other nominees, among them former Secretary to the state government, Aliyu Tijani, State Chairman of All Progressives Congress, John Marman, appeared before the Assembly for the exercise. During the screening, most of the nominees were asked by the lawmakers to take a bow, and while a nominee from Nasarawa Ego local government area, Haruna Musa, was absent. Announcing the confirmation of the 16 commissioners designate, the Speaker of the Assembly, Ibrahim Balarabe, congratulated and wished them the best in their new assignment.
I congratulate all the nominees and I wish them the best as they get themselves in this new position. It is our hope and prayer that they will put in their best in the interest of our people and in the interest of our state.
While explaining the unavoidable absence of nominee Haruna Musa from Nasarawa Egon local government, the Speaker said the nominee was indisposed during the screening. One of the nominees, Labaran Magaji from Toto local government, thanked the governor for finding him worthy and promised to discharge whatever assigned to him diligently.
I'm highly indebted to the state, bringing my experience to bear in the service of this great state of ours, and to be rest assured that as a federal prosecutor who has traversed all the courts in Nigeria, by the grace of God, the experience shall be deployed in any capacity I'm given to serve in this state. Thank you and God bless.
The State Assembly has commenced its annual recess and will resume legislative duties on 4th September.
Now, cleaner air and a safer environment building the ecosystem is being threatened by man's activities on Earth, triggering climate change, and it continues to cause havoc across the ecosystem. Stakeholders in Benue State are worried that the government is doing very little to mitigate the impact of climate change. Jimmy Azande reports from Benue State.
A closer look at the environment suggests that climate change is taking a toll on plants and animals. Not many people know that human and natural factors can help mitigate impact of climate change.
Now, adaptation is measures that you will take to adjust to the changes brought about by climate change. How many of us are aware of those changes that we can adapt? That is why there is also provision in the Act for enlightenment, education of the people, collaboration with public and private sectors. These provisions are already in the Act. And now, this law that are in place, what is the implication for the people? If you violate the provisions, what do? You can't tell people to stop cutting down trees when they cannot afford kerosene. You can't tell people to stop cutting down trees, nor utilizing charcoal and firewood when the cost of gas is high. Government need to come out with drastic policy.
Some of the natural causes of climate change, according to the experts, are deforestation and poor planning by government.
Climate change is real. There's nothing we can do about it. But then there are measures that can be employed by government, again, climate change adaptation, in a manner that makes everybody to benefit from it. So it's a situation that, imagine how many lives we've lost in Benue as a result of the farmer header issues. A lot of them are preventable if government was willing to listen. It's a reality that many of our leaders have avoided. They have avoided. Some of them have refused to see climate change as an issue to take into account. We needed to bring experts to, and based on the conversations, we can see how real climate change impact is in the lives of the people.
The way out is to collaborate with all stakeholders in mitigating this impact.
Climate change is a global problem, and the impact on the agricultural sector is becoming very devastating. It's no longer time to fold hands. Something has to be done. And the government on their own side are doing something, especially in the area of regenerative agriculture. Something is going on with the Federal Minister of Agriculture. Something is also going on in the Ecological Organic Agriculture Initiative, Nigeria. Private sector too are key in, because there is need to drive down the advocacy on regenerative agriculture, organic agriculture.
They said much needed to be done to enlighten the people, especially the rural dwellers, on the need to protect and preserve the ecosystem. Jimmy Azandi, Trust TV News, Makurdi.
Now, the World Bank has pledged financial and professional support to the Tinubu-led administration in Nigeria as it maneuvers through its first few months in office. A delegation of the World Bank Group led by its president, Ajay Banga, met with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Friday at the State House in Abuja, while commending him for the macro-fiscal reforms that have been instituted by his administration. From the State House, Kehinde Amodu reports.
Just one more evidence that the world is looking on as President Tinubu navigates towards setting the economy on the right path. There is no evidence of an improvement in the economy in these early days, with citizens struggling under a cost of living crisis. President of the World Bank is at State House Abuja to offer to share knowledge on how to create the right regulatory and fiscal policies. The World Bank president believes that the Nigerian president has taken the right early steps, including the removal of fuel subsidy.
Basically, we had a very constructive discussion, not just with the president, but also a number of his advisors. And we talked about what was in his mind as priorities. And I commended him for a lot of the things he's doing early in his term. Not easy. Macro fiscal reforms and stability are very important. He's very determined to do the right thing. And I think you will find the World Bank supporting him with not just financial aid, but also with knowledge and thinking around how to create the right regulatory policies and fiscal policies.
The Global Bank is also pledging financial support to the Tinubu government, stressing that Nigeria must become an African champion.
If Nigeria becomes an African champion, then we know that the African continent has a country, the largest country with the largest GDP, headed in the right direction. That's his vision, and that vision we share.
After a constructive dialogue with President Tinubu, the World Bank president is convinced that the Nigerian leader is trying to do all the right things. He is so convinced by Tinubu's many reforms that he is not paying too much credence to any gloomy forecast that has been made earlier. From State House Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
And now for today's briefing in business, here's Chiamaka Nwanfo with the latest.
The Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, has said that the CNG rollout will be ready by the first quarter of 2024. He said this in a video shared by the NNPCL on several key facts that Nigerians need to know following the company's recent agreement with NIPCO PLC. The agreement involves the development of CNG infrastructure and ensuring delivery to Nigerians as an alternative fuel for vehicles after the fuel subsidy removal increased the prices of fuel in the country. Kyari said the CNG rollout will be in phases. The first phase will comprise 21 CNG stations, which will support intercity transportation and will be ready by the first quarter of 2024. Kyari also said the compressed natural gas CNG is safe to use for cars. He also highlighted the fact that CNG-based transportation has been done in other countries, citing that almost every tricycle in India makes use of CNG. The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has warned Nigeria and other African countries to brace up for higher food prices following recent developments that have temporarily halted Ukraine's food exports to African countries. USAID's Deputy Administrator for Policy and Programming, Isabel Coleman said this at a virtual press conference. According to her, Russia's decision to withdraw from the Black Sea Grain Initiative had already begun to trigger higher food prices around the world. She noted that the impact of this food price hike would be more felt in developing countries that were import dependent and had conventionally relied on grain imports from Ukraine. And finally, in the aviation sector, Ethiopian-backed Nigerian Airlines will become operational by October this year. In a TV interview, the CEO of Ethiopian Airlines, Mesfin Tessiu, noted that the firm is eager to see Nigerian Airlines start flying local and international routes. According to Tessiu, the airline will begin operation with 2 wide-bodied planes and 6 narrow-bodied aircraft. On the management of the airline, the CEO said Ethiopian Airlines will manage it, stating it is a proven model and the objective is to enable Nigeria to have a flag carrier. Ethiopian Airlines in 2022 won the bid to handle operations of the proposed Nigerian Air in a controversial circumstance after local players complained the company was handed an advantage during the bidding process. Nigerian Airlines is owned by Ethiopian Airlines 49%, the federal government with 5%, SARCO with 15% and 31% owned by others. And that's it on Business News. I am Chiamaka Nwafo.
Now we turn our attention to developments on the international scene. Ethiopia's federal government on Friday declared a state of emergency following days of clashes in the Amhara region between the military and local armed fighters. It did not say whether the restriction applied only in the Amhara region or across the country. Fighting that broke out across Ethiopia's second most populous region earlier this week between the Fano militia and the Ethiopian National Defense Forces has quickly become a security threat. Fano, a part-time militia with no formal command structure, backed federal troops in a 2-year civil war in the neighboring Tigray region that ended with a truce that last November. But the relationship has soured over what some in the region say is a disregard by the national government for Amhara's security. The state of emergency allows, among other things, for roadblocks to be established, transport services to be disrupted, curfews to be imposed, and for the military to take over in certain areas. Now let's take a look at developments in sports now. And France international defender Axel Disasi has joined Chelsea from Monaco on a 6-year contract for the sum of 45 million euros. Disasi, 25 years of age, offers defensive cover at Stamford Bridge after Wesley Fofana sustained a serious knee injury. He played in all 38 of Monaco's Ligue 1 games last season. Disasi has played 4 times for France, including featuring as a substitute in the 2022 World Cup, the defeat against Argentina, and he also made 129 appearances for Monaco after joining from Stade de Reims in August of 2020. Now the centre-back becomes Chelsea's 6th signing of the summer following the acquisition of Christopher Nkunku, Nicholas Jackson, Leslie Gochukwu, Angelo Gabriel and Diego Moreira as new manager Mauricio Pochettino continues to put his stamp on the new squad at Stamford Bridge. Well, that's our package on the News Hour tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Feel free to follow us across our social media platforms for more content. And for more news, do check out our website, trusttv.com. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for your time and good night.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.